Good evening, everybody. It's my pleasure to welcome you back to another episode with Riverside School. Um, for those of you who have been with us in the last session, we had a very interesting conversation with 6 students from grade 6, talking about mental health and what they could do during the COVID times. From that conversation to today, it's just been about a month and a half, and unfortunately situation has not improved a lot, but I hope that mental health overall with that program, with that talk, we've been able to bring some aspects of it into our lives. And if not, I would encourage everybody to actually take a look at it, because at this time, I think that particular conversation, that Let It Go program would be really helpful. Um, we're back with the school for our next episode, and I have to say, today is a topic which is very dear to me. It is a topic which these children from grade 8 to 12th have been working on the last 1 year of COVID again. The topic is towards gender equality, especially towards abuse on women. It is called abuse, and it is divided into abuse. I'll let the students tell us and take us through how what the word abuse means. It's slightly different to what we understand it. The interesting part here is how these children came about this program and what they're doing with it. A quick brief from my side. The program, the students, as we all, most of us during our schooling time, would have had a place called prom night, which we all look forward. I remember when I was in school, 12th standard, the last day, it used to be a great feeling to dress up in a certain manner, to be the people on that school on that day, and uh, of course the dancing went with it, and all the little things that the school would do for us, it made you feel great. Unfortunately, this year that hasn't happened with most schools, and so did not happen at Riverside. And Riverside took this opportunity to make their prom night into something more exciting, something that they could all work together. And that has resulted into what is called abuse. And we will take this opportunity to hear from them what they have to say about it.
We have Anana, Aryan, Prabodh, Rena, and Swayam. 5 students who wanted to create a change in the space of gender sensitization and abuse. Let's hear what they have to say about their experience at the gallery.
The idea of abuse actually is a campaign that started from the first batch of Riverside. And the idea is turning abuse, as in the English word, into the Hindi now, and use. And it sort of promotes the idea that you have a certain, all of us have a certain amount of power. And rather than to use that power and abuse that power, we use it in a way that is appropriate and at the opportune time, and that is advantageous to everyone. And that's the idea of as in now use. And this was started by the first batch, and it has been passed on throughout all of the batches in Riverside. And it remains as a tradition, like you said, as prom in Riverside, which happens not only in 12th grade, but from 12th, from 8th to 12th grade. And it's an idea not about the dressing up or the feeling special. It is about feeling special, but how all of us can make each other feel special, um, irrespective of what gender we are, how we have been dressed up, or and that sort of promotes not only sort of gender equality, but just simple comfort between girls, boys, girls, girls, and boys, boys. And I think that was the idea that we wanted to uphold even this year. So we couldn't actually do prom on Zoom or anything, but we still wanted to at least pay our tributes to that idea that the first batch had started. And so we had discussions emerging from that. And we thought therefore art was a good expression and a new way to express this idea, and that's how I guess it was initiated.
Great. Anybody else wants, any one of you want to contribute to that? No. Okay. So, as we heard, so the idea came to keep alive the tradition of abuse in the school and not abuse, but ab and use. The whole fact was to try and see if, in spite of being away from each other, they could still reach out to one another and try and use the concept and continue with the concept. It's very interesting what they all came up with. As Raina mentioned briefly, they chose art, and art was a medium that was chosen by them and then extended it across the four grades. And eventually they came up with a gallery of art, which I hope we can show it to you uh, at a later stage. But right now, I would like to ask them that how did art really come into being? I mean, what was the inspiration? They could have explored many different means, but they specifically chose art. So, what inspired them to choose art? Yeah, Sayam, please.
Yeah, so there are 2 points to this. First was when we were thinking about what to do for prom and how to respect the gender, we thought of ideas, and our principal, Karan ma'am, called us to school. Only the boys, only few boys. And we saw at an example of an art gallery, which was for rape victims made by an organization or NGO in Africa. And from that, we got an idea that art is a way which we can express our emotion by any means, because colors can be a medium, the curves and lines can be a medium. And hence we thought, if you're expressing such a deep topic, we need something which will not limit us and will carry on thoughts and ideas of each one and express it to everybody. So yeah.
Okay. So interestingly, the project was started by a few boys. So it started with a few boys coming together. Do you want to, any one of you wants to talk about that a bit? How it started with the boys and then expanded into the entire, what's about 160 of you, right? If I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Anyone?
So yeah, the
Yeah,
thing was
Aryan.
that yeah, so we were around only 8 boys that were called. It was from grade I was last year in 10th, so 10th, 11th, and 12th. So we were called up and we were told that some sort of incident had happened. And as a group, we had said that if it is about the girls or people of our school, then all both the genders should be included. So that's why we took a decision that we should also include the girls of our grade.
That's great. That's great. So what were the experiences you guys had? So it from 8 students, it became 160 from exploring what to do and how to expand gender sensitization within the school. It must have been a long journey. I mean, it's not just in terms of time, but your emotions and what went through you all. Uh, if anybody could try and take us through that journey.
Yeah, so I think
Sorry,
the
Prabhu,
experiences
continue.
the experiences was something very different because it was talking to each and every student from grade 8 till grade 12. And again, as we decided to go ahead with art, it was something very sensitive because each and everyone has his or her own way to express it. So yeah, it was a very long journey on which we started with. But the point is that how everyone came up with the idea and everyone was ready to go ahead with it. So it was about accepting rather than sharing their own perspective.
Ananya, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, no, so I was going to talk about how when the idea was first brought to us, it kind of seemed a little distant from what we had been experiencing for the past 2, 3 years. But once you kind of, like you said, it takes a lot of time to kind of understand the issue and the sensitivity of it. So once that was explored more in different ways, maybe it was videos or congloms taken by the main 8 boys who had been called to school, it kind of became an idea that people started embracing. And then art was just a medium for all those thoughts that had developed during those conversations to kind of come across, and obviously previous viewpoints and experiences that you have of your own. So it became from a it became from a thing that involved the entire key stage or an entire class to something deeply personal. And that's kind of how it went for me, the whole journey of creating my art piece and putting up the art gallery.
Raina?
So, apart before even before the art idea, I guess the experience consisted of many different stages, and that even includes, for example, hearing stories about people who we know, and they have experienced, I think, episodes of abuse. And I think that was also very, very deeply touching because you tend to feel that you are disconnected from the problem because it's not happened to you, and you don't realize that it actually happens to the people who are closest to you, and it's actually all around you. And I think that was a very grounding moment, especially for me, because I just didn't realize, and it went so easily unnoticed that it was a bit disturbing. And I think that was one part of the journey that touched me a lot. And of course, building from that, when we talk to different people, I think that's where the art came naturally rather than it being the art is the product and therefore we should stick to that. And then of course the art became an idea of empathy as to can we, if we have to create those forms or make it into something, then can we step into the shoes of the people that we've talked to, or people who have actually experienced this. And I think that level of empathy then came very naturally, and I think that was the best part of this experience. So yeah.
So, Rina, it's very interesting what you said. And you said that it was very easy to fit into their shoes. But when you were talking, so I'm assuming here that you managed to speak to some survivors. What was your experience when you were talking to them? Did it, uh, I mean, I know you said it bothered you and you were surprised at how easily you could miss it. Anything more you can add to that?
So the thing was, it wasn't easy to empathize with them. It definitely wasn't, and I don't claim to have correctly empathized with them either, or relived their experience. But it did come more naturally when you know it's people who you see every single day, right? Or people who you have experienced different parts of school or your life with, and that way, I think it was like like I said before, disturbing in the sense that I didn't notice it, but also it made me very, very aware about, or made me want to be at least aware about the people around me, and maybe just to take a second glance every time I look at someone, and not just assume that they look fine, so they are fine. So I guess that was something that I learned. Yeah.
That's great. Um, did it at any point did you need to step back and take help from anybody? Did you manage to get that, or was the peer group enough as in support for you?
I think it was something that we were doing together. So that way it was a group that was supporting each other. And I don't think it was something, especially I did not need, feel the need to seek help at least. Right.
Okay, that's good to know. Great. Sorry, Saim, you've been wanting to say something for a very long time. Sorry.
Yeah, I just had one small thing. The thing was that, like Prabodh, Anaina, and Rena said before me, the thing over here was we had a whole lot of experiences before we went to 160 people and shared our idea with. So, like I said, art gallery. So we met the creators of the art gallery. We talked to them, the rape victims. Then we also talked to a few people around us in a school campus or people who we know, and how they have survived situations of gender disparity, gender inequality. And when it comes to a stage like that where you know a person personally and that person has faced it, you make a good connection and you stick with that idea even if you weren't connected or interested in it. So you are invested in the idea later on.
That's great to know. I mean, I love the fact that you feel you're invested in that idea. Anyone else? So, Sayam said that he feels very invested in the idea. Uh, I'm just wondering how, on a day to day basis, and even Raina did say touch on this a little, that on a day to day basis, things have changed for you, right? You no longer see the world the way it was maybe 6 months ago, before you started investing into looking at abuse and how closely abuse may be taking place next to you. If any one of you could throw a little more light on how it has changed you as a person, changed, evolved your thinking, anything that has happened in the last 6, 8 months that has, I mean, what has happened in the last 6 months, how that has made you a different person today. And then,
Yeah, so I think before the idea was introduced, obviously I was aware of the idea that abuse was there and how extreme of an issue it was. But once it was brought on this platform, like Swayam and Jana said, it kind of made it, I wouldn't say real, but really like pretty close, than a lot more close than you would expect or you would have expected. So I think what that did was put it on a higher, I don't know, priority, I would say, in terms of my own thought process. So if I'm thinking of something that's going on in my house, how might that particular instance be different in another household where abuse is present, and what is something that I can do, maybe now, maybe as I grow up, maybe as I develop as a person, in terms of making sure that it does not evolve into something that is so extreme that it leads to the extents of domestic violence and harassment that we've seen in COVID times, I feel.
true, very true. Anybody else? Yeah, same.
So like Anina just said right now, I think uh, from the experience I also started to notice things around us, because before that we were immature, we didn't know things around us. And now if you see the domestic violence at a uprise because of COVID and people not finding help and things like that, it feels like it has become normal towards us. People who haven't been in connection or are not close to a person who has experienced this, it becomes normal. They might have lost feelings. I do not say they certainly must have, but they could have. They might not consider it as a threat or something which is very serious. Yeah, and when you experience things like this, then only you get to know how serious this is, how dangerous this is to the person who has experienced it, not only physically, even mentally, from the shocks they have after the experience. So yeah, it has made a difference in our way of talking to our peers and things like that.
That's good to know. That's great. I mean, every little thing counts, and the fact that at such a young age, you guys can say that it's made a difference in how we think and how we look at issues. That's an amazing learning. Yes, Aryan.
Yeah, also that like it gives you confidence if you see wrong somewhere that's happening. It gives you confidence that you would go up to that person and say that no, this is wrong. So like after all of this, it gives you so much of confidence, like your peers supporting you, all the teachers and all. So that just boosts your confidence.
That's good to know. It's very good to know. Any Prabodh, would you like to say something?
Yeah.
Yeah, Prabodh.
So I think again how all of us have changed, or maybe if I talk about myself, all of us are more mindful after, going through the process, or we have understood that how do we react in certain situations, and Now I think after that we have started thinking more before reacting to a particular situation. So yeah, that.
Great. That's good to know. Um, so I know that few of your, I mean, the group, it was 8 to 12th, and some of the students have left school, and a lot of you are still in school. Is there any plan to take this forward? Is there any thought into how you can take this ahead in life? Or even not in life, but even within the school parameters. So, like this year, are you planning to do anything with it, with the whole concept of abuse and gender equality? Yeah, I am.
Yeah, so like we said, at an individual level, it has changed us, so it will remain and have effect lifelong. But if you want to know as a school, then we were thinking of an auction of our products. We still aren't sure about that. We are thinking about that as a school, so that will happen. And of course, we have prom as in concept every year, so that we'll have stuff like that this year too.
Okay, that's great. Raina, you wanted to say something?
No, so I think this was more of a, again, grounding experience as to, I guess one is building empathy, the other is just becoming more aware, and like Aryan said, becoming a little bit more mindful. Um, what comes out of it, I don't think it's just one product. It's a lot of small things, from the way that we behave with each other in class, or even, for example, we have a lot of different processes in our school, whether it's citizenship or persistence, or and whether sometimes we have to find a cause that troubles us and then come up with ideas of how to solve that. So whether it's even in that, it at least makes us aware that this is also one more cause, or this is also one more problem. So it's something like Anana said, that is now on top of our priority. So it's part of everything we do. So it's not just one outcome, it's how we can ingrain it into everything that we do every single day.
Anybody else? Okay, one thing I would like to really ask you to think about it. So it's abuse, and normally, um, so when we're looking, so when you guys looked at abuse, it was sexual abuse or was it overall abuse? Um, yeah, any one of you. Ananya.
Right. So I think it wasn't just sexual abuse. I think it was gender-based abuse and violence or harassment in general. So it wasn't confined to just, obviously each type of abuse is horrible and completely unacceptable,
Correct.
but we didn't want to constrain it to just one type, so that more people could feel like they could kind of share their own experience of any kind, and they could kind of express how they felt, or how they felt watching an experience or interacting with it or something.
So at any point, was there ever a discussion on how the boys felt versus how the girls felt in this entire discovery? I'm just wondering because the the experiences are different, right? For how
Like as a small matter, or like from a small start, like boys don't cry, girls like pink color, boys like blue color, things like that, which are there. And it is certainly not only for girls, it also happens to boys and things like that. So those were the small steps, and then there were big ones which are very different and cannot be classified as things like that. And I guess over there we understood how a boy seems the world is pretty open and there's a lot of freedom towards him, and a girl has to be constrained or is restricted to go out at night on streets or things like that, because the world isn't safe.
true. Yeah, there is a different viewpoint for work girls and boys. Anybody else? Yep. And then
Right. So there wasn't any necessarily like stimulated discussion of how the boys separately and the girls separately feel. I think that was a safe space that was just created by those leading it, that if you had a different viewpoint or if you had a different experience, you could share it. So that is how these different experiences came up. And I think what it did the most was give each other kind of a perspective about how the opposite person kind of perceives the world, or why they have to behave a certain way. And I think Rana talked about empathy before, so this also kind of built a lot of empathy within each other, not just for the for the guys towards girls, but also for the girls towards guys, in terms of, like Swam said, expressing their emotions freely or something like that. So kind of making aware of the privileges and allowances, I would say, that each gender has within their own, and build off of that to kind of come back to the same idea of respect and comfort.
True. So true. Very true. Anybody and anyone
Yeah,
else wants to? Yeah. Yes,
adding
Prabhu.
adding on to what Anaina said, it was not about having separate discussions. Instead, it was about discussing it together and be as open as possible.
It's good. It's good to know. Aryan, anything? No. Okay. Uh, guys, I'm pretty much done with what I wanted to ask of you. And as I said, this discussion's been amazing. The work that you guys have done has been amazing. And the fact that you could get 160 students to come together and generate awareness on abuse and different aspects of it. Uh, to us, it's something which I would say would stay with you guys for a very long time. And I would encourage, honestly, if I was in your place, I would do this exercise every year in the school. I mean, I really feel it's something for both boys and girls to realize and see what is happening around. Um, Fortunately for us, we are in these very privileged spaces where we may not see it as openly. We are not able to, we are shielded. It's not that we are shielded. Our parents and our school and our society tries to protect us as much. But unfortunately, outside that realm, there is a lot happening. And um, it's great that we are getting a chance to see it, because it's important in life to realize what's happening outside our immediate community also, and then to be able to find spaces. I think that's one of the best part of this program, that you guys have given a space to people to be able to come and speak about it, to be able to express it. To me, that's such a wonderful outcome. uh, and I know the two discussions I've had with you, I've reiterated the fact of the safe space. And I hope the school continues what you guys have started, and that safe space stays with you and within the school. Anything you people would like to say in the end? At all, anything, any thought, anything that's left out, anything you want to tell us more about the project, please go ahead. No? Okay. So, yeah. So, this brings us to the end of this abuse debate podcast that we're having with Riverside students. Again, it was a project started by class 8 to 12 students to look at abuse in a different manner, to see how it is taking place around them, to understand what abuse is at close quarters to them, to be able to have discussions around abuse in safe spaces. And finally, they chose a medium to express it by creating artworks. They have I think, if I'm not mistaken, about 120-piece art gallery, which is digitally available to view. We'll have to see if the school allows us to showcase it. If it does, we will definitely showcase it. The students and the schools trying to see if they can try and auction those art pieces and see if they can raise some money with it to further carry on their work. It's been our pleasure to have this work and to be able to bring it forward to you and to see how little things in this world can make such a huge difference. Thank